All
right. Good evening, everyone. I call this meeting to order on July 21st, 2022 at 7:03 p.m. Is member Yasik here?
Yes.
Fantastic. Is member Leahy here?
Yes, here.
All right. And Chair Keanu Smith-Brown is also present. We're going to now, go over the comments. Were there any submitted? Maybe we don't have that right now, but so
I would imagine if there were some, Regina would have sent them to you.
So we're just going to
agree.
we're just going to go forward. Exactly.
Because she contacted me this afternoon to let me know that she was going to be late. So if there's anything to pass along, I feel like she would let me know.
She would have done that. Yeah, exactly. Okay, thank you. So is there a motion then to approve of the minutes? If you've taken a look at them.
Yeah, they looked okay to me.
Yeah.
Okay, so member Yasik moves to approve these minutes. Second.
Yes.
Second.
All right, all in favor, please. Aye.
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 All right, perfect. Now we're moving along to the discussion. Now, member Leahy, Eileen,
All right.
I know we have the preliminary report on analysis or analysis.
Right.
The campaign
Well,
campaign fund reports.
between vacations and COVID, I've just done a cursory look at all of them. The good news is now this time period for these reports is November 3rd, 2021 to June 26th, 2022. So the good news is everybody on the city council, including the mayor, all got them in on time, which I think might be a first. We do have a few former candidates that appear not to have submitted their reports, and it's not clear if maybe they thought they had closed them. Sometimes it's kind of tricky. So Regina is going to follow up with them. Also with the transition, once Susan Eckert left, there might be something in her files that indicate that their last report was a final report, and that's why they're not doing it now. So I've given that list to Regina to follow up on. There were a few that didn't. There was one person who submitted late and will be notified of late fees. There's one other former alderman who has not submitted it, or at least not that we have it. And so Regina's going to follow up with him and find out about getting it submitted and then assess late fees. So that's where we are. It took a lot as far as kind of getting some of the previous information pulled together, because when you're doing as many as you do in an election year, they build on each other. And so sometimes there's amended forms, but I think we're in a pretty good place, because I went back to the last time we looked at these actually was in January. And so they all were pretty clean up to January. So really it's the question now of just going back and doing numbers. Most of the reports looked pretty good on just going through them real quick. They're pretty short because nobody's really raising money right now. It's really just making sure. There were a few candidates who did close their reports that reported them as disbursements, and they really need to be reported as transfers. So some of this stuff is not earth-shattering, but it is something that we just have to go back and say, move it from disbursements to transfer. So for instance, if a candidate gave money, if they were closing their campaign and they gave money to one of the central committees, it's a transfer, not a disbursement. And I saw at least one, if not two, that had done that. Excuse me. But overall,
Did I do mine right?
You know, I didn't get to that level of who did you have? Who was your person again?
George Gallagher.
Oh yeah, George's was already checked because he submitted his, he closed his, didn't he?
Yes, we closed it, but we sent in a final, end of June.
Right.
I'll have to
So-
look to see because we were wondering if it was a transfer or a disbursement. I'll check, but I just wanted to make sure.
Right, so
I was
those
right.
sorts of, the types of things I'm looking for, things like that. So I want to make sure that it was done as a transfer. And I do remember going and looking at the Annapolis Republican Central Committee, and they did note it as a contribution. So it's those sorts of things that just,
Okay.
sometimes it gets into the minutia, but
Yeah, because he gave it to them. His remaining funds went to ARCC.
right. So that's fine.
Okay.
So those are pretty much, I'll have a little more time this week to look at it. They're actually in pretty good shape because one of the things we've had in the past is when campaigns, the people that lose in the general elections many times kind of leave their campaign accounts open and they just kind of sit there and they forget that they have to either close them or keep going with the reports. And actually we had a really good number of, and I think this has to do with Susan Eckert following up with them. And so we just want to make sure we go through her files and get all of them. But I thought it was good news that all of the city council members had all of theirs in. So once the analysis is done, they'll be posted on the website. And also anything that's amended will be posted on the website.
Yeah, Susan was very good about reminding the treasurers and the candidates of all the different deadlines and processes. Is she gone now?
Yeah, she was gone as of December 31st.
Okay, so is someone doing that in her absence?
Well, the letters and things like that, Regina will be following up on.
Okay,
But we only have one. We only have one report this whole year.
okay,
So
Right.
we have the time to do it.
right.
But the good news is they were in good shape. If the last report wasn't in good shape, this report's not going to be in good shape because what happens is the mistakes carry through.
Yeah,
So the fact that they were in pretty good shape, I only have 4 questions to double check on from last year's. And I think all of them have been taken care of, which means these reports should be good.
now, last year I noted that there were some candidates that submitted their reports late. And I
Mhm.
believe there's what, $100 fine? And I know one candidate was late with the first 2. So how do we know if they made their payments on those penalties?
Oh, Regina follows up with the finance office. So everybody's paid up. But sometimes we have to reissue some letters, but
Right.
I forget exactly what it is. It's like, I don't know, Ashley, do you remember? It's like $20 a day. Then it goes to $10 a day, up to a maximum of $250.
That sounds about right. I mean, I'd have to double check, but that's probably in the ballpark, not exactly on.
Right. So if they're late with one and then they're late with the next one, it can add up.
Yeah, I thought it was $100 if you're late and then
No, it
it
accrues.
builds on that. But
no,
is there
it
any way
accrues.
where the public or candidates or committees can track that? You
Well,
know,
they know if they-
themselves, like instead of just saying, well, Regina is going to follow up with finance or whatever, is there a way online or somewhere to see if we're following the requirements?
I mean, I think just a call to the city clerk would be suffice.
Yeah.
We have a new system that's not online yet, but that's coming online that could maybe use this. I know Regina's training on it. It's a more comprehensive tracking system for this sort of stuff, but I'm not sure exactly what all the applications are because it's not online yet.
Okay.
Right. I do know that Regina, they will scan it and put it into the file. So if anybody has a question, they can check with the city clerk's office. And if anybody wants to know the specific fees, they're in city code.
Okay.
Yeah, it is. It's right here. 4.44.100 reporting deadlines, failure to file. and it shares that for pre-election reports and affidavits not timely filed, it's a $20 each day for the first 6 days, and then $10 each day thereafter. And then for post-election reports not filed timely is a fee of $10 each day.
Yeah.
Maximum $250.
So Regina will take care of that.
Okay.
Any other questions?
So I know that for the process, since this is the preliminary report, with the final report, is that something that all of us, I know Debbie had asked and we had talked about some meeting in person, but that may not be possible with the COVID, all that. But so what is the process for finalizing these reports? Is that something that we're going to all have and then agree upon them? Or are we just
I think I'll have a better idea if we need to do that, because this is different in the past. We've generally just sat and done them, but my first review is they're pretty simple right now. So I can send it, the checklist. I'll finish working on the checklist. What I was really just doing was making sure who got them in on time, who was late, who needed to submit one and didn't. And then we get into the minutia. I started on, did they initial every page, that kind of thing. So usually with the first review, we'll just pull out the ones that are problems. And then depending on how many there are, we can decide if you all want to go in and take a look at them. But it's kind of a moving process. They don't need to really be formally, they don't need to be completely done until next year. Exactly. Not that we're going to take that long, but.
Okay. So if there aren't any more questions, Debbie, do you have any more questions?
That's it. Thank you.
Okay, absolutely. So we're just going to move forward then from the preliminary report on to the final review of our resolution RXX22, a task force to study the city and municipal election laws and make recommendations if needed to improve the city code structure and procedures for city municipal elections. So I've taken a look at this final version. Thank you, Ashley and Regina, who isn't yet here, for taking the time to do this for us, and also for our city council. I will be, after we finalize this, I will be contacting Mayor Gavin Buckley to be our sponsor. So by tomorrow morning, he will receive that email with our resolution attached, the finalized version. I will also be reaching out to Alderwoman Finlayson, as we discussed, to get her support, since she is the chair of the Rules Committee. So we're going to get her support to make sure that we can pass this on first reader. Now, would you all like, and I can just go through it really quick. It is, front and back, 2-page. But before we go through it, because I do want to read it just for us to all know, were there any questions or thoughts or any changes that we felt needed to be made?
No, I guess I was hoping we'd get it in on, so we won't have it for Monday for the city council.
No, so well, I believe the plan was to have him, if we were able to get him to agree on tomorrow, that it would be added. That's what, in my conversation with Regina, I know she had mentioned we may be able to get it by the last meeting, but we'll see. Let's see. Ashley,
I think it needed to be done earlier because the agenda's out. So
yeah, at this point, we have to do a motion on the floor, which has happened actually quite a bit this spring. So, I mean, if you really want to, you are welcome to ask him about that. But that takes a little bit. That takes all the council members to agree.
Right. That was the plan once. The mayor was discussed, and also I think we talked about doing Alderman Savage, and then the idea was to talk with Alderwoman Finlayson, because she was the one that was going to have to agree to having the rules suspended. So I guess we were hoping that would be done earlier in July, so it could get out with the agenda. But now it looks like then we're going to go to September.
Yeah, that's what it's looking.
Well,
yes, Debbie.
Why? So the mayor's back now, Ashley. He's here. The mayor's in town.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, he's back in town.
Okay. So how about if you feel him out tomorrow, Keanu, about sponsoring the resolution and taking it to the Monday night to suspend the need to introduce it and just have it introduced and voted on at the same meeting, especially if you can also grease the skids with the Rules Committee. With Finlayson, Arnett, Brooks.
Yeah.
I mean,
Well, we'll
otherwise
see.
we're gonna lose a month, right, Eileen? We're gonna lose.
I think we've lost it. So, I mean, you don't want to push it either, because that doesn't look well either. I mean, the idea is to,
Okay,
touch base, get the support, see if they have any questions, if they're in agreement, if they have some other things. So I don't think at this point there's any upside to pushing it too much. I can go when we get to the next draft, we can start doing some things, but I think it might behoove us. I mean, Keanu, you can certainly give a call if you want to tomorrow, but I think it may behoove us to say, maybe it'll be September, because they won't be meeting in August.
No, yeah, they're about to go on their recess. And, I know the plan was, as we did say, was to get this on the agenda, though with lots of moving parts and people away and things like that. We weren't able to get this final until today. So at least close to the final. If we approve onto this, it will be the final. So let's just go through it and let's just play by ear. Let's just see. I'll reach out and I'll share and see what he would say to it. And we'll just go from there. It's all right. So the title, a task force to study the city municipal election laws and make recommendations if needed to improve the city code structure and procedures for city municipal elections, for the purpose of establishing a task force to study the city municipal election laws and make recommendations if needed to improve the city code structure and procedures for election in the city of Annapolis. So as we go through, I'm just going to say it's extremely as fast as we can and I'm clear.
I mean, I'm okay if we don't necessarily, we approved it. So
now, so if we're all in agreement, because if we're all in agreement, I know that the updates have been made. The one thing I do want to make sure is that this task force is going to be an advisory support to providing to the board, which we'll be able to review and agree or approve of what they've shared. Of course, we're selecting our volunteers. So the thought is that they would be pretty like-minded, or at least be under the impression that we would be able to move forward with their thoughts, whatever they share, the reports. But I do want to make sure that that's what the process is going to include. It's going to include them being that advisory support to the board. But other than that, did anyone have any questions on the resolution? If we don't want to, we don't have to read it. We don't have to.
I mean, is there a specific thing that we do have line 1 on the second page, which is they'll solicit volunteers for the 5 members.
It's exactly the same as what you discussed at your last meeting. I just accepted all the changes and I filled in, there was a blank for the meeting date. So that was done, nothing else.
And then down on 25 on the second page, number 6, it says they'll make a final report of recommendations to the city council and the board of supervisors.
Yes, and I believe that was the one piece that we had talked about at our last meeting about the series of events, or the timeline. Would they be providing it to us and then to the city council? But we said that in our conversation, we would just share with the task force what that process would look like. That's what we said. We would just create the process, provide that to the task force. So we don't have to include it in this resolution, but we would be sharing that. So that's fine.
I mean, they can we could ask them for an interim report if we want. I mean, it's broad enough that we can, as part of the process, or just say we'd like to have an interim report at 3 months.
Right.
So.
And just, just so that it's not, that the task force is not taking the step on its own to provide this, obviously, with them being, because I look at them as being an arm to the Board of Supervisors of Elections. Because all of us, the members who were not able to be on this task force or to show up or to be present, would also have lots of thoughts and input for the processes and changes of election law. So that's why I want to make sure, especially as we move forward, that it's an arm and not necessarily its own separate part force that's just going to be providing reports to both bodies, more than it would be providing reports to us and then we're presenting or supporting what they provided.
Oh, we can ask them to give a monthly report before our board meeting.
That'd be perfect.
I mean, there's mechanisms for doing that.
Okay, well, we're set. Is there any questions, any thoughts? Because I would ask for a motion then to approve of this resolution as written.
Didn't we
Or as
already
typed.
approve it at our last meeting?
Yeah, well, we did, though it had the change, it didn't have we didn't see it with the changes in it. So although we approved it
Okay,
with the assumption that they would make the changes. But now that we have the real changes in front of us, we're just going to approve the changed version of the resolution. So there's no question that we agree and we approve to those changes.
okay. Well, I move that we accept the resolution being proposed as written.
Thank you. Is there a second? Debbie Yasik, is there a second? You're muted right now. It's all right.
Yes, I second.
Okay, moved and seconded. All in favor, say
Aye.
that aye. Aye, okay. It's passed. We're gonna please, Ashley, if you don't mind sending a PDF version to us, so I can get that on over to Gavin
Yep,
Mayor Buckley.
I will do that first thing.
Oh, fantastic. Thank you.
I
Okay.
think It's in,
And thank
it's
you,
in the materials. Keanu, it's in the
Yeah, it's
materials.
I
Virginia
know it's a
sent us.
document. It's a document version.
Oh.
I'm in the material, so I can convert it. But I just wanted it officially from you, just in case there's something may happen. So let's move forward then to. Thank you. It was a draft that, well, I wouldn't necessarily call it a draft, but it was a support document. If you all have printed it or looked it over, that boards and commissions application that Eileen had provided for us to take a look at. I would say the only thing that we could possibly add is if instead of work experience, they could either give us that work experience or provide a resume, which I think would encompass much of that work experience and maybe even some extra like certifications. I know an educational background is here, so maybe we can just ask for a resume if they like, instead of writing all of this out.
Well, it's all, they can just type it in. It's the fillable PDF.
But
Yeah,
can't they
type-
just say, see resume attached?
That's what I'm saying.
Right. But
Just like if someone rather had put a resume that has all of these things, why have them copy and paste when they can just say, please see.
Well,
attached.
okay.
And then,
But they're still going to need to answer some things like, are they an employee of the city of Annapolis?
Yes.
I guess for consistency, I think it's helpful to
fill it in fully.
have this as the primary document. And then if you want to put in under work experience and those sorts of things on page 2, they could say, see resume. But certainly I think the form itself needs to be completed for consistency.
Oh, absolutely.
Okay.
Yes.
And
yes.
this was, I met with Hillary. I met with Hillary and talked with Regina as far as talking about the process. And Hillary has found that this application works pretty well and it's already done and it's already online. So I think that's helpful for us. So we can certainly add some things in the cover letter for anybody that's interested, saying, we want to have, we want to have specific information about your experience with election law or elections and that sort of thing. So that sort of thing can be put in there. I don't think we have the ability necessarily to change this form, but we could certainly ask them to include in their statement of interest some of that. Might be helpful. I did put together just a timeline that I just wanted to go over with you. And, it's still very up in the air, kind of pending when we get all this moved through. But I did talk with Hillary. Hillary usually works for any of the mayor appointments. And I did verify with her and also with Ashley that the Board of Supervisors of Elections will actually be making the appointments, which will be different. Usually the council's used to doing it, but I think it will help in terms of keeping it multi-partisan and give us the ability to really pick people out that can really give us their expertise. So if we're looking at September, going to the city council for first reader, it may take the whole month of September, depending on if we have to go to committees or not. Recruitment of members would be things like sending out a letter or sending out to the city council members, asking them for recommendations, sending to political groups such as the central committees. We could also add D30, some others. If we want to go to the county, might want to also include community organizations. The city info officer has for, I think it was for, I can't remember which commission recently, sent out some social media pieces that were really kind of cool. And I did have put in a call to Mitchell to see if that's something that she could do for us, but I thought that would be helpful in terms of getting, across the city population. We can also send out inquiries. I've already had some suggestions. And so if people are getting some suggestions, we might want to keep a list. I also reviewed the membership of the ad hoc committee that was put together after the 2013 election. So
Do you have that list right now?
it's on the website.
I believe I saw
Oh,
that.
yeah,
That
that's from the ad hoc. Now, granted, that was, 9 years ago.
Mhm.
But once we get a number of interested parties, then we can, have them do the applications. Hillary suggested giving people a deadline of a month to get the applications in. So that could potentially bring us up to early November, depending on how things go. I think a first review could be done. Again, we're kind of held back because we can't meet in public. I mean, we can't, we're meeting by Zoom, but we could probably do a first review and just see, kind of who rises to the top. And then do a second review of applicants. And if we're really lucky, we might be able to make the appointment, say at our November meeting, is my guess. And then you could do your appointment of members, say December. And then the question is, do you want them to start in December or wait until January?
Right.
Yeah, with the holiday, that's what
Right,
November on down is the holiday season, October.
right.
All right. Now you mentioned something about that cover letter. Was that what you were going to be working on to provide for us to take a look at, or was the board and commission application what you were sending to us to be the reference for our
I just wanted to see how you felt about that, because that was one place to start. And I can send out this timeline that I kind of played with. I mean, there's nothing we have to vote on tonight. It's just kind of, does that kind of work for you all as far as kind of a general thought as far as the process?
Yeah, and it really is. Oh, yes, please, Debbie.
No worries. So I agree, we can base the application off of the board's, the city existing board application. But for this case, I would like to ask the question somewhere, maybe on the first page, or if we're not going to mark up the existing one, then at the end, but what their political affiliation is, because we do want it to be, we do want it to be diverse, and it's not in here already. So just a simple, what is your political affiliation, and let them fill that in.
And regardless if they put it, we'll be checking it.
Yep.
All right, well, we might as well ask. I mean, it doesn't hurt. And then I like the idea to specifically, even though we're asking for their work experience and educational background and other experience, I think it would be good to highlight any election or government experience, which we've talked about before. And that might come out in their application, why they want to be on it, but it doesn't hurt to remind them this is our focus.
Right, I think we can include that in a letter and ask them, particularly under the.
Okay, that's fine.
Because the statement of interest is, why do you want to be appointed to this board? But we could also ask them that, excuse me, we can say we're specifically looking for people with election experience and expertise. And so please include it. And
highlight that. I like that. That could be noted in the.
And that's the kind of
letter.
thing when you're looking at, I mean, it would be great if, say, we had 20 applicants. That's the kind of thing on a first review you can start to look at and just say, we've got 10 people that have a lot of really good experience, 10 that don't.
Right.
How do we want to work that?
Yeah. And the only other thing is this does say, are you a resident of the city of Annapolis? Because this is for city boards and commissions. And I know in this case, we're not necessarily bound to that, but we might want to say then, maybe if, are you a resident of, I know they're going to put their address up here, but I don't know if we want to ask if they're a resident of another city or a resident of the county. And then how long, the last note I have is, how long have they lived here? Wherever they live, how long? Because it's nice to get fresh people and fresh input, but it's also nice to hear from our longtime residents who have opinions as well. So that's another, another category that we can look at is maybe get some new people, but some old people.
And our focus though is election law and expertise.
That's the main, I know, that's the main thing. It's just, we only have 5 people and we want to get it right. And
that doesn't mean, remember, we're going to be doing public hearings. I think it's going to be key that there's going to be different topics and that there's going to be, open meetings and to encourage people to come and tell us what they think. So sometimes people are just very hesitant to join commissions also because it is a lot of work. So I think if we can also publicize that, even if you're not on the task force, we want to hear from you. And that's also something that can tie in with Mitchell.
Yeah, and that's what I was going to ask actually, or really bring it up, is with Mitchell, in order for this, because this application is the general one that they use. So would we then be creating a separate application, or are we going to, because you mentioned about our letter, so we would be sending a letter including this application, and then they can specify under the different question category areas what the relevancy is to election law, or how
my suggestion would be to send, just come up with an email letter, which we can have in September when we meet next. And then you just give them the link because you want them to put it in right into the computer. And then they can send in their resume. And so it will probably, I guess one of the questions I'll have to ask Hillary is she going to get them, or do we have another place? Where should they go to? I'll have to ask that. But the thing to do is we don't have to attach an application to them because we don't want paper necessarily. We just want
so pretty much what's being at is that we can't create, we're not going to be able to create, because for other task force, every person who's interested always complete this board and commissions application, because it doesn't say task force there? Or is there a separate form that's created for each of these different?
I don't think there's a specific form created for task force. Often it really depends. Sometimes they already know kind of who they want on it, and they don't even really go through a application process. But I don't remember them ever creating a specific one for any individual task force.
I think some of this is also new that Hillary has been working on. So I wouldn't.
Yeah, this is part of that new system I was talking about, where they're trying to get more stuff to go electronically.
Forms, yes.
So I'm a little hesitant. I can ask and see if we can, modify it. But, then we're asking MIT to take something on. So.
No, this is pretty close. It's
pretty good.
It's pretty good. It's just a few little tweaks that maybe we could put in the cover letter, or just that political affiliation would be nice.
But we're gonna look that up, because someone can say that's what their affiliation is, and you got to look it up anyway. So, yes, I can appreciate that. We could ask them to include it.
That we want to be diverse and
right. I'm also really trying to keep it as non-partisan approach as possible.
Right, but we do need. I'd like everybody on.
Right.
all
Well,
our
we've talked-
flavors.
Right. We've said it's going to be politically diverse, and that's going to come to us. So, I mean, we're going to have that information.
So it
But
sounds, I was going to say, it sounds that you are also really taking the lead, which I know we had selected you as our not official ex officio member, non-voting member. So continue if there, as long as you can provide updates to us and share with us, you know, who you spoke with and what information, so that Debbie and myself can both know where we are and can also provide that input, and we're not doubling up or, you know, going over each other's toes or anything like
Right.
that.
I mean, you know, the other types of questions I would actually be interested to know, and we can think about this is, you know, is someone currently is currently a candidate or a member of a campaign? To me, that's something that I would want to know more. So probably, you know, that might be helpful. So I'll check with MIT, I'll check with Regina and see if we can work something out, and I'll let you all know in September.
Please, thank you. Debbie?
What does seem to be working out time-wise is regarding election season, you know, November's, you know, we had our city election last year. November will be done with state and county and federal. So going forward, if the task force meets from January to June of 2023, that is kind of a quiet time, right? It's after elections. So that's nice. It doesn't, it's not on top of it.
Right, but that doesn't impact the city. What's going to impact the city in the spring is budget.
Right.
So hopefully if we're looking at more like May, June, we're looking then at budget being behind everybody, hopefully. And so, and they're going to need to know some things. So like, for instance, if the primary gets moved up, it will be in a separate fiscal year than the general election. So it's a little bit tight. So then you're looking at fall of 2023, trying to move all of it in, because we have to have everything in place by August 2024. So, I mean, there's time, but time gets away from us,
Right.
at least from me.
Yeah, we got it. This team is quite on it, so we'll be fine. If there aren't any other questions though on this, thank you, Debbie, and also Eileen for sharing with us all the updates and all those that will be to come. I did see that Alderman Dewan Gay is with us on tonight. Welcome, Alderman Dewan Gay, Alderman Gay. Thank you for being here.
Oh, no problem. Thank you very much for allowing me. Oh, is it my turn?
Yeah, I was actually going to say, if you would like to share or speak, please feel free to. And I believe there's a question we'll ask to you just to get your input and your thoughts.
Okay. My apologies for not being able to be physically, like you said, that you can see me. We actually just wrapped a meeting at City Hall. So, but I had two quick questions. The first being, are there any rules that I should be aware of as it relates to transferring funds from our campaign fund accounts to candidates running in the general election that are not city candidates? So, county executives, state delegates. Are there rules that would prohibit that?
I mean, if you go into the fair election practices part of the code, it'll be in there.
Okay, I had not seen that. Would you mind sending maybe a link so that I could read up on that?
Okay.
We'll look it up as we can. Let's see. Here we go, elections. Because if I do recall, I believe there were only two places that we could send our monies, and that was either to a Democratic Central Committee, Republican Central Committee, whatever Central Committee your party, and to the city of Annapolis.
That's if you're closing your account.
Yeah, if you're, let's see here.
So
Just
you're
wanting to give some money.
Alderman Gay, you're talking about keeping your campaign account open, but just taking some of that money and transferring it to another campaign?
Yes, ma'am.
I can't remember anything specific, but if you look into the code, if you look under section 4 of the elections in fair election practices, it'll be in there.
Okay, perfect. I appreciate that. And then my second question, as it relates to I'm maybe making a switch or getting back into school, and which would, I could possibly have to leave the council, and that's something that I've been, trying to decide over the last couple of months. If that were to happen, I've been informed of the rules and regs of how I should go about letting the appropriate central committee know from the city. But with the account closure, if I wanted to potentially return in the future, is it appropriate to keep it open, or once you resign, are you required to automatically close the account?
Keanu, is it okay if I respond?
Yes, please, Eileen.
Well,
I'm looking at-
first of all, depending on if you were to leave when, if it's more than 15 months, it's a special election. The central committee doesn't get involved. They only are involved if it's less than 15 months to the next election. If there's a special election, there are a lot of different rules. It has to work very quickly. It's something like the mayor or acting mayor makes a proclamation, and then within 5 days, you have to have a primary election and a general election set up within something like 23 and 30 days afterwards. So it's very quick. The challenge is there's an election going on in the county and in the state. And if this were, let's say hypothetically, to occur in early fall, it would be very difficult to hold a special election, because things like voting machines and ballot printing and election judges and all of them are going to be with the county and the state elections. So I would ask that you kind of keep that into consideration. There's also the fiscal piece. I think our last special election ran about a little under $20,000. That was a primary and a general election. So if there's no primary election, it's probably about half of that. But that's also something to consider. Your second question in regards to, yes, you can keep your account open. We generally encourage you to close it because we found that when they're kept open, people forget to keep up with filing. But it is your prerogative. The municipal code is different in the state. They would have you close your account, but that's not the case in the city.
Okay, that's great. And I've been briefed on the cost and et cetera. That's why I've been trying to keep that into consideration. Definitely. I just wanted to make sure everything else was, I was aware of the rules. So I really appreciate you all giving me the time to answer those quick questions.
Right. I would be, I don't think I can stress enough. I would be very concerned about trying to run an election, a special election in the fall. I'm not, yeah, it would be very difficult because I know the county wouldn't be able to help us. And again, trying to find vendors that would supply, we'd have to run it ourselves. And then you're talking about trying to find vendors for things like the ballot printing, the machines, and then recruiting of election judges. And it's a really tight, it's one of the things I certainly want to look at when we're looking at election law, because it's a very tight schedule that's somewhat unrealistic to have a vacancy and then to have an election within a month.
I definitely will absolutely keep that in thought without question.
Great.
But you could do both.
I appreciate it. Thank you all.
Yes, thank you, Alderman Gay. So I've only seen fair election practices. It only really includes outstanding personal contributions and expenses to candidate, but it doesn't really, it says anonymous contribution surplus funds, but it doesn't necessarily talk about.
Yeah, I don't think there's anything specific. You just have to follow whatever the maximums are to the person that you're donating them to.
Yeah.
So the code's pretty open about it.
Yeah, it doesn't really talk. All right. Well,
and the area that covers the it's under vacancies. I had it pulled up earlier today. shoot, I don't have it in front of me, but if you go under vacancies, that's what tells you whether it's more than 15 months or less than 15 months.
Okay. Yeah, here we go.
It might even be in the charter. Do you know
Filling
offhand, Ashley?
vacancies.
It might be in the charter, but
I think
I
it's
was,
in the charter.
The vacancy shall be filled at least 30 days before the election with the vacant results from a type. No, that's not. Okay.
I think I actually, let me see if I printed it out. I kind of played with. Let me see if I can find something. I think I might have something drawn up already. Let's
Yeah,
see.
this is a special
Okay,
election.
I have it here.
Okay.
So it's section 7 vacancies. And so it's so whenever a vacancy shall occur with 15 months or more remaining until the next general elections, the mayor, acting mayor shall issue a proclamation directing that a special primary election and a special general election be held to fill the vacancy. The mayor, acting mayor shall issue this proclamation within 5 days after the vacancy. So after they've left. And then the proclamation will specify the date for the special primary election and the special general election. And it has to be held at least 23 days, but no longer than 30 days from the date of the proclamation. And then that's for the primary. And then the general election shall be held at least 21, but no longer than 30 days from the date of the special primary election. So it all depends too on how many people are running, whether you have to have a primary. Certificates of candidacy must be filed the Monday, the Monday that's 3 weeks before the date of the special primary election. So you're literally like having a proclamation, a week later, certificates need to be in, 3 weeks later, or 3 to 4 weeks later, have an election, and then you may do it. It's very tight.
Yeah, because it says to your 15-month, it does say in A that it'll be for filling vacancies to occur with less than 15 months remaining until the next
Right.
general election.
And that's what occurred in the last time with Alderman Rodriguez when he left. Now, Alderman Gay was brought into his position initially through a special election when Shanika Henson moved on to be a delegate.
Yeah, when she was appointed. All right.
So,
yeah, that would be something. All right. Well, we'll see how that goes.
we'll see how that goes. I appreciate him asking the question.
Yes, and I don't believe, and for the other question, it may be open because they don't really specify that there in the code. But Debbie, did you have any other questions or anything before we move to this adjournment? Okay. Well, is there how about you, Eileen? Did you have any questions or thoughts before we move to this adjournment?
I don't think so. I just want to verify, are we meeting in August? Technically, I think we have a meeting scheduled. Regina's not here. When I was chair, I always insisted on including the August meeting because I always felt like it's easier to cancel a meeting than to add a meeting.
I think you'd have to check. Regina, the clerk staff is going to be very short staffed in August because that's when they all take their vacations. So I think some of so I would check with her because generally they all take off in August because most people don't meet.
Right. But just to be on the safe side, I'll make a motion that we don't have a meeting in August.
All right. Is there?
I mean,
yes.
I mean, I'm open to it, but I mean, it's unless we have something really pressing.
Yeah,
usually
right.
the August meeting, most boards and commissions don't meet.
Okay. I don't. Yes, Debbie, we're not able to hear you right now. We're not able to hear you, Debbie. That's okay.
We are prepared for the resolution in September, so we don't need to do anything regarding the resolution in August because that's done. The application for the membership, Eileen started it, you'll work on the cover letter, and we can't get that out until the resolution's approved, right?
Right, and I can certainly distribute drafts.
Yeah, so I guess we're prepared for the first council meeting of September, and then we're almost prepared to get the application out to the membership for the task force. And that's our big lift, is that task force. So I think if we don't meet in August, it seems like it would be all right.
Okay, then would you like to say, and then if anything changes,
second it.
Okay, second the motion, then all in favor? Honestly, I just abstain. I don't really have a thought on it.
I mean, are you okay with that? You're the chair. I mean, you can call it. I'm pretty sure there's one scheduled.
Yeah, so, well, we won't, currently, we won't have a meeting. If you can, Eileen, just share with us any updates and documents we can go over, and we'll just work through, because whatever draft you provide, I'll go in and I'll add everything that needs to be or change, whatever. We'll just go back and
Well,
forth.
we have to do that through MIT. We can't do that, so. Oh, but the other stuff I can give you. I think you have a motion on the floor.
Yeah, so it's, the motion passed. It was 2, you and.
Oh, I didn't, okay,
Yeah, I heard you.
I missed the vote.
So then for the September meeting, we'll also get an update on any campaign finance reports that need to be looked at or adjusted or
Yeah, I mean,
reached out to. I mean, I know we have time for that, but
Yeah, we do.
if I need to do anything or Keanu needs to do anything with our reports.
well, we can all go in by ourselves and go to Regina's office and look at them. So it's always good to get a second pair of eyes.
Right.
So once the checklists are, once I get the checklist completed for all of them, certainly it would be great for one of you all to go in and then just look at it again and then initial off on it. But that could be done at,
on our
doesn't
own.
have to be done in a meeting.
Can you give us a heads up when?
Yeah.
Okay.
All right, so it sounds that, okay, so Eileen, you're gonna be, you're really at task, that you're here to take on these tasks. You're gonna be reaching out to MIT and ensuring about our document or our application, what we can update, what we can keep, those things. Then you'll provide to us update via email. Also, for that checklist, you also provide an update to myself and Debbie for any changes if you want to show up in person and sign that off, confirm that it's all right, all those reports. I believe that would be everything aside from the draft that you may be.
Yeah, and I'll send that out with, since I have some of your comments that I wrote down.
Okay. All right. So we'll just look out for every update, and thank you too for taking that lead with reaching out to MIT and everything and making sure that our application process is going to be up and running soon. We trust you, so keep taking it on. Okay, Eileen, thank you for your wisdom. Now, is there a motion then to adjourn this meeting?
Motion to adjourn.
Yeah,
All right, second. All right, all in favor?
Aye.
That is aye.
Aye.
Okay, thank you. This meeting is adjourned, 7:56.
All right. Thank you all. Thank you,
All right.
Ashley. Okay.
And I'll ask that question to Alderman Gay separately. I know I mentioned at the end there may be a question for him, so I'll just call him and ask that question.
Okay. Are we offline?
I don't believe.
Oh,
So.
I
Josie.
think so.
Gotta wait for Jess.
Are you guys taking
We're done.
it offline?
Yeah, we're gonna be adjourning right now. We